My very great pleasure to introduce the next speaker for this conference. Carla Rueckert is best known for her participation in really a unique experiment that happened in 1981, a collaboration with a physics professor and another person who ultimately became her partner. And this collaboration lasted approximately 3 years. And it produced a body of work which, over the almost 30 years that it has first appeared, has really been something that has been a great source of inspiration and wisdom for countless thousands, even millions of people who have come across the Ra material. Certainly amongst the most, if not the most, profound set of channeled material from higher density beings that are here to help our planet, that has ever been recorded and put in writing. It is available in book form, it's available on the internet, and any of you who have read the Ra material cannot but be really impressed with the quality of the material, the depth of knowledge, and the philosophical concepts in there are still remarkable. Even though it's almost 30 years since that material first appeared, its meaning, its significance is only now being fully appreciated. And that's probably not surprising, because with the most prophetic works, it's only when that period that was prophesied actually becomes something that eventually emerges, that people begin to take note. And back in 1981, the Ra material was speaking about this time, this period, 2011, 2012, it was speaking about this period. And so it's really a great opportunity for us to hear from Carla Rueckert, who was the source or the transmitter, the channeler for the Ra material, to come here and talk about 2012, its meaning, and how to prepare for that. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to welcome Carla Rueckert and her partner, Jim McCartney. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Surely the presence of the One is in this place. I can feel its mighty power and its grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings, see joy on every face. Surely the presence of the One is in this place. The presence of the One is in this place because it is in each of you. And together, we are a lighthouse of tremendous power. During this conference, we shall come more and more into an awareness of this sacred space that we are building with our blended auras. We shall come more and more into an appreciation of who we are and why we're here. I am so thrilled and so privileged to be a part of this. I hope it is a time of awakening and transformation for you. I'm going to download a bunch of information today. Don't worry about it. When the energy is like this, people go in and they go out. You will get what you need. You can take all the notes that you want, but it's better just to be here and to listen. And so we begin. Let me tell you just a bit more than Michael did. I began channeling 12 years after I joined Don Elkin's experiment in extraterrestrial communications. I didn't want to channel, I just wanted to meditate in a silent group. I am a cradle Episcopalian and I love my services. I'm not much on dogma, I'm a mystical Christian, but the church is a great comfort to me, and I have always sung in the choir, and ever since I was old enough and big enough to hold the hymnal. And the problem with that is that the church is wonderful with its beautiful rituals and its marvelous prayers that have been crafted over generations of time, and of course the incredible musical repertoire that feeds me so much. But there's no silence in the services. Even when it says there will be a period of silence, people get very nervous after about 6-7 seconds, and so we read on, the prayers of the people do not contain the silence. So I was hungry in college. I was 19 in 1962 when Don Elkins started his little group. He was acting on information he had gleaned. Now, he had been working in this field since the middle 50s and was very sophisticated even then. He'd come across some material from a group in Detroit called Man, Consciousness, and Understanding, and it suggested ways to develop an extraterrestrial communications group without that nasty bother of the, close encounter of the third kind and all of that hoopla. So Don thought this was worth an experiment. He was a teacher of physics and mechanical engineering, and so he nabbed 12 of his favorite physics students and said, how about an experiment? And they said, by all means, and I was the girlfriend of one of those 12. So 12 gentlemen and I tended to sit down on a Sunday night and meditate. And eventually they all began to channel. I was not interested. But in 1974, when everybody in the group had gone on and graduated, found a job elsewhere, he was running out of people to experiment with, so he asked me if I would learn. Reluctantly, but because I adored Don, I said sure. It took me about 2 months to begin. But the Confederation entities were very patient with me, and eventually I got it. I started channeling, and once I started channeling, I became very interested in channeling better. Channeling is something that is very easy to do, but it's excruciatingly difficult to do well. It takes a life. This is my life. And I will be here, hopefully, to the end of the age, and I promise to turn the lights out when I leave. That's the amount of dedication I think it really does take to live the words that you channel. A note about our vendor table. The things that we have already are a book that I wrote this year called 101, The Choice, which is an introductory book, as 101 would suggest, about the principles of the law of one I will speak of this morning. Another book that we have on the table is called A Book of Days. It is an artifact of my channeling practice. In the 90s, I worked for several years just tuning and challenging, practicing that over and over, trying to glean every bit of skill that I could in that process to see what would be the best for me. And so at the end of my husband's and my morning offering, each morning we do a daily offering to start our day. I would go through my tuning process, and then I would ask for the Holy Spirit, which is my personal guidance. And once I received that contact, then that was really all I needed to do, but I felt like a churl if I didn't ask for at least a thought for the day. So my husband recorded these very short thoughts from the Holy Spirit, and that's eventually what became a Book of Days. We thought, Well, we have so many of these. We had almost, I think, 700. Wouldn't it be nice to select 366 of them, leap year, and make a book so that you could have a companion for each day and start each day with a thought? So if you're a mystical Christian, as I am, or if you speak Jesus in spite of the fact that you're not a Christian, you might enjoy that book. The other book that has come so far is also, it's an artifact not of the channeling process, but of my communications with people over the internet and by snail mail. I took all of those, mostly internet letters, and analyzed them as to what questions came up again and again. And there were over 100 of them, but they recur and they recur. I mean, there are just so many slots into which spiritual seeking tends to go. So armed with that, I took those topics and I sorted them into a flow that I thought would be helpful for people, and basically wrote answers to each question. I had the idea that it was sort of like a user's manual for the human being, where if you wanted to look up polarity or free will or whatever, you could look that up in the table of contents and see the essay that I wrote on that subject. But I understand that a lot of people read the thing all the way through and find it helpful that way. At any rate, it contains not only my writing, it contains a lot of quotes from the material that I've channeled through the years, and it contains a lot of good thoughts and good ponderings from the people who have written into LNL through the years. We pride ourselves on answering every letter, and now it takes 3 people to do what I used to do in, a couple of hours a day. But we still do answer every letter and value every seeker, every soul. I'm here this morning to talk with you. Oh, to finish that thought, we're missing 2 boxes. So take a look at what we have so far. But please do come back to the vendor table that has my name on it. It actually should say L&L Research. And because I am only part of the channeling, I firmly believe that the channeling group creates the channeling. The instrument simply translates what comes in concept communication into words. As you sort of have to take a cookie cutter to concepts because they're round and almost infinite. And then you have to roll them out and stamp some words out to get a bit of what you're receiving. So I always feel very frustrated at the end of a channeling session because I know that there was so much more. But you can just do so much with words. So that's all we've got. So far, we're working on the opening to the infinite. At any rate, the Law of One, we'll have copies of that coming as soon as our boxes come. We'll also have T-shirts. We'll have a coloring book for kids that happened because we had a 7-year-old in the group one time, and he asked the question, what is love? And, of course, what came was on a level that spoke to the 7-year-old. So I thought, what a great thing for children to have a coloring book that has a message of a metaphysical nature. And we're proud of that book. The first book that Don and I wrote was a parable that started coming true several years later. And it's called The Crucifixion of Esmeralda Sweetwater. We were in 76, Don reported on his research from 1955 to 1976. So it was 20 years of research. And because of the depth and the breadth and the wisdom of this great man, that little humble book, Secrets of the UFO, is still a little bit ahead of its time, oddly enough. And it was this incredible sensibility that Don had and his great wisdom and his background in science that made his conversation with those of Ra unique. I only went into trance with that one contact, never knew how I did it, just went off to sleep. And so when it comes, I hope you'll take a look at it if you're not familiar with it already. 101 is a good introduction to it. Secrets of UFO is a good introduction to it. Sometimes it reads like German philosophy. It's thick as molasses, and you have to chew it. But it's very rewarding. If it appeals to you, it will appeal to you from beginning to end. Also, we have T-shirts, colored, dazzling, all is one, right across the back. I hope that you enjoy the things that we brought. Please, please enjoy them, because we don't want to take them home. All right. 2012, that's what I'm here to speak of. And it is such a privilege and pleasure to share with you positive, glowing, wonderful information that has no doom, no gloom, no fear, but only beginnings and good suggestions, good resources as to how to respond to this opportunity, this challenge, this time of shift of consciousness. Let me just touch on the outer husk of meaning of 2012. It's such a buzzword now, and it's too bad. I haven't seen the movie, but I understand that it's basically an action flick, and it's just not accurate, and that's so typical. The Ra and the Stargate, not the one, folks, that offered their information through us. The entertainment media can bend things to their liking, and that's fine. It's good entertainment. But the Ra group is not the Ra of Egyptian mythology. It is a social memory complex, a societal group that works and thinks as one, not because they're all alike, but because they are harmonized through their ability to share each other's thoughts and to act as one because of deeply set beliefs. So, 2012, the Mayans. Well, the Mayans didn't say that it was the end of everything. I will let other people who know far more about this speak on that. They were reacting to a unique event, astrologically speaking or astronomically speaking. And it is the end of the, let me get this right, it's the end of a 5,125-year cycle called the fifth sun. And it is the beginning of the sixth sun. Naturally, when the sun goes down, there is a pause before the sun goes up. There may be a period of challenge, a period of some chaos and disorganization. That's our opportunity. The great thing about the native cultures is that what they know, they know. There's no explanation. They couldn't possibly have known this intellectually. There was no way to work this out. But they knew a great event was going to occur on the winter solstice of 2012. And they knew that, and they are right. When the moon is in the seventh house and Jupiter aligned with Mars, then peace will guide the planets and love will steer the stars. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius, Aquarius, Aquarius. Harmony and understanding sympathy and trust abounding. No more falsehoods or derisions, golden living dreams of visions, mystic crystal revelation, and the mind's true liberation. Aquarius, Aquarius. Western Astrology, number 2. They also say that on 12/21/2012, an unique event is going to occur. And I'm going to read this to you. I'm not an astrologer. It's never really appealed to me the way it does to so many. I absolutely honor the astrologers. I believe it's one of the 3 ways to investigate the archetypal mind in a relatively undistorted fashion. But it's never called to me, and I think you need to follow a path of resonance in your seeking, regardless of what people say. So this is the actual skinny on that. The astrological event is that the sun is at 0 degrees Capricorn, the point of the December solstice. It makes a sextile to Neptune. Don't ask me precisely what a sextile is. I know it involves 6 of something. Right at the beginning of Pisces. The most important configuration is a yod, which is like a thumb, which we find in the chart. This is also called the finger of God. Pardon me, not a thumb, a finger. It looks like an arrow in the chart, and it indicates change and transformation. The yod consists of a 5-point connection between Jupiter and Pluto, and another 5-point connection between Jupiter and Saturn. There is also a central opposition made between Jupiter and the Mercury-Venus conjunction. The quincunx, which is 5-pointed connection between Jupiter and Pluto, is exact at December 21st, 2012. This is the event that the Mayans and Western astrology have in common. And again, how did the ancient astrologers know all these things? It's a mystery. When you look into spiritual information, you are going to find paradox and mystery. That's how you know you're on the right track. Nothing can be proven. Everything is left to you, to your choices, to your sense of resonance, to that wonderful subjective process that you go through of noticing spiritually interesting coincidences. And once you notice them, they begin to multiply and deepen and widen. And soon you have totems that are speaking to you. Street signs and ads speak to you. The television gives you keywords that come out to you and go, oh, I need to look that up. And it's just so yeasty and so creative and so very subjective and intimate. This is how we learn. This is how we grow. But this time, also, a fellow named McKenna also has a theory that appeals to me greatly. It's called the novelty theory. And basically what he says is that the rarer an event is, the more likely something is going to happen, some kind of transformative event. And as a matter of fact, he says, the uniquely rare event in the history of our recorded time on this planet is 12/21/2012. There's an ecliptic evolved. There's the center of the universe lining up with our Milky Way galaxy, and it's astonishingly complex and wonderfully internally consistent. And if you'd like to read up on it, or you may hear about it from others at this conference that will speak about 2012, but at any rate, he says basically that since it's uniquely rare, being a one-of-a-kind thing for thousands and thousands of years, I mean decades of thousands of years, that the most astonishing things may happen. He has no idea what's going to happen, but he thinks it's going to be a big thing. Once to every man and nation comes a moment to decide. In the strife twixt truth and falsehood, for the good or evil side, some great cause, that great harvest opening up, the bloom or blight, then the choice goes by forever twixt that darkness and that light. The Confederation on 2012 is that it's a time of choice. The Law of One says this is the hour in which you may choose another way. And I'd like to read a fairly substantial quote because I think it catches something that is very helpful to us, and it puts it in a way that I think sinks more deeply in than my wording. This is from a channeling from Kuo. Now, I've channeled consciously since 1974, before, during, and after the trance contact I had with those of Ra. And this is from a session recorded on January 20th, 2006. We have seen a tremendous dawn break upon your planet. We realize that the outer picture remains grim. We ask you to look beyond the surface. Those who are in power upon your planet have a great tendency to be oriented to service to self. It is natural for this to be so at this time as the dynamic between service to others and service to self becomes more and more obvious. However, this does not have much to do with life lived by the majority of those upon your planet. In general, we see the peoples of your planet awakening in record numbers all over the globe. It is very exciting to see and feel the energies of the people stir and to become aware of the fact that there is something happening of which they can be a part that is truly positive and that it will truly change the face of the earth. It is a dim awareness, but there is a stirring that cannot now be put back to bed. We would encourage you at this time to realize that you are here not to be concerned with these changes, not to react in fear of them, but rather to lend to this environment, which could be distressing for many, the comfort of your faith. Many are listening and looking for some indication that there is hope and a positive expectation possible for those upon planet Earth at this time. And we would say to you that if you are awake and if you wish to serve, you are in an excellent position to do so simply by being who you are. Simply by being who you are. We ask you to respond to these waves of intense energy that you are feeling, not with fear, but with faith. Take this opportunity to stand on your own 2 feet and to remember who you are and why you are here. As you breathe in and breathe out, you are little lighthouses able to take that breath and that energy of life and bless it with your firm intention to serve. The glow and the radiance of your being shall be a beacon for many. You do not have to explain or discuss or do anything to be light workers at this time. You have only to be yourselves and to know yourselves. And again, 3 months later, Kuo said, "Let your lives be about love, and you shall make of your world the heaven it surely is. When you walk through the gates into larger life, you shall only see more of the same, my friends. For you have been there all the time. This day you are in paradise. Believe it and act on it, and let the word spread that heaven is on earth today. It is in your hands, it is on your lips, it is in your heart." They feel, the Confederation beings, that this is the time of a transition from third density, we are third density human beings, to fourth density, the first density which takes place in time-space rather than space-time. First density, to recapitulate quickly, first density, the elements and the powers, earth, air, fire, water. Second density, the animals, who are aware but not self-aware. Third density, we are. Third density beings, we are aware, and we are also aware of ourselves. And our very nature, therefore, is to become ethical beings. Fourth density, the density of love and understanding. Fifth density, the density of wisdom. Sixth density, the density of unity. Ra is a sixth density entity. Seventh density, the density of foreverness, where each of us one day will turn from the now and what is past and what we desire, and we will realize that everything that we have ever desired, we have accomplished. And so we will then turn towards our reunion with the one infinite creator in a completely passive and unmanifest state. And so seventh density ends in timelessness, that same timelessness in which first density began. So really there's an octave, you see, going on. The infinity of it all is stupendous. It's as if the Creator's heart is beating. And seventh density goes into timelessness, and when the Creator once again chooses to know itself, then a new creation starts and comes out of timelessness about halfway through that first density of the next octave and begins all over again. Nothing is lost, and we begin again as parts of the Godhead principle, little holographic sparks of the one Creator, to investigate and witness and give the harvest of our lives and our thoughts and our understanding to the one infinite Creator. We're not the end of the food chain. The Creator is. I want to tell you a story. There's no song for this that I'm willing to sing, that I would call The Space Pirates and the Warriors of Light. The story, which I have gleaned from years of various channelings, is that 75,000 years ago, at the beginning of this major cycle, which is third density, the entities of Mars had rendered their planet uninhabitable. They were in the middle of their third density. And so the Confederation decided, the ruling Council of Saturn decided that under the guardianship of Yahweh, who was a Confederation entity, whom we've heard of as Jehovah, that they would transfer the souls of those of Mars to Earth. But looking at the great apes that were around, they thought, I think we can diddle with the genetics here. And Jeremiah Sitchin's talked about this a lot. Very interesting to look at that, and also Drinvalo has talked about this a lot. And there were some genetic changes. They diddled with the DNA. They thought, well, what if, we helped this second density grade 8 become a third density human carrier, the physical vehicle for third density souls that were going to start coming in. What if we made the brain pan bigger so that, they could understand the law of one better? What if we helped with the tongue? What if we helped make people more able to speak? What if we gave people more clever hands so that they could make things? Perhaps this would speed up the process of becoming aware of who we are and why we're here, of becoming aware that we are ethically oriented beings that need to make a choice between service to self and service to others. What if? Well, the council said, don't know, let's give it a try. And so third density on planet Earth was born. Also in the mix is the fact that the sub-logos, now in the Confederation cosmology, the logos is the one great original thought of love. The sub-logoses are logoi, as Ra always said, which is the correct Greek plural, who knew, are the suns. And our particular sun decided that they would like to do a little tweaking of the basic plan of the logos, which would include a heavier veil, so that we did not remember that we are infinite beings and citizens of eternity, but really only could become aware of that through a process fueled by faith, not by knowledge in the worldly sense. And to give people ultimate free will, which was not done much in previous experiments, as each sun would sort of embroider on the logos and say, well, let's see how this works, let's see how that works. So we're a pretty advanced experiment of the logos. We've got amazing free will, and we have a very thick veil. What happened with this plus that third element of a physical vehicle, which was far advanced of the basic grade A vehicle, is that we brought the harvest of late second density. And you know the grade A is a clan-based society. They are loyal to each other. They're not necessarily those who mate for life, although they can be. But they are very loyal to their clan. They take care of their own. They defend against anybody that threatens the clan, and they try to amass whatever resources they feel the clan needs. The problem with that, you see, is when you translate it into third density, is that there's so much more than that. And in truth, because of the thick veil and because of our clever hands and our clever minds, we have not gotten beyond second density's value system in a lot of ways. We grasp for what we think we need. We protect our own. But we have not come into the realization that we are ethically based beings, and that I am you and you are he and he is me and we're all together, as I'm quoting wrongly from John Lennon. So we have, setting up almost immediately, cycles of empire. This wasn't what was intended. This total service to self orientation of empire, of, I will conquer, I will take what I want, and so forth. And the trouble with that is that all of those from Mars had done that in the first place, and that was why they had to start over on another third density planet. Then we were joined by those of Maldek, who blew up their planet, and they were entering into the mix, and they also had gone through cycles of empire, and it was just like a global habit wherever you came from, Mars, Maldek, 16 other places that had somehow rendered their third density planets uninhabitable. I mean, we're like, Earth is like, a reform school. It's like, come on, guys, could we get beyond this? But we haven't gotten beyond this in terms of what flies above the radar. Politics, economics, the so-called big picture, which of course is an illusory picture, far less real than the family lives of those of us on planet Earth who live and serve and love each other tremendously. That flies below the radar and is often unnoticed. So what did the Council of Saturn do? Well, they decided they're going to have to put a quarantine into effect and limit outside influence and see if this reform school could work it out so that they could graduate from reform school, get back into third density, make the choice, and pursue either service to self or service to others in a way that would polarize them. Neither service to self nor service to others has really come into its own here on the planet because of the muddying effect of these cycles of empire and the frustration and the fear that people feel. And also all of those old racial memories of, I mean, it's a habit, right? It's a habit that you can get into to think, well, of course it's not right to kill other people, but there are times when it's necessary. There are times when it's for the greater good. And we're used to slipping into those rationales that feel so good and work so poorly. As Gandhi said, if you have violence, it works in the short run. In the long run, it fails. And that's what's happened over and over again, from Atlantis to Babylon to Rome to all of the Reichs, the Holy Roman Empire, Metternich's Reich, the Third Reich, and the Fourth Reich, which is the American Empire, and to a certain extent the British Empire. No name-calling, no judgment. It's just that service to others has continued to fly below the radar while politics and corporateness and all of those wonderful, juicy conspiracy theories, oh yes, just float on service to self concepts. So naturally, you're going to have, in a time of harvest, those of us who are service to others and are attempting to graduate in service to others. And then you're going to have a certain number of people who are attempting to graduate in service to self. So you have these fairly advanced but somewhat muddled service to self people that never really get it together to be 95% service to self, which is where you graduate, actually. You can only have 5% service to others' thoughts in your mind, or you just won't graduate. The Ross group said that Hitler didn't graduate. Hitler had a lot of healing to do, but he thought he was doing this for the good of his nation. And because of that, he thought he was being of service to others, so he never really polarized enough to get out of that slough of indifference that creates people that are going to repeat grade 3 in the School of Souls, that is this creation. So we are and we have been for 75,000 years, according to the Confederation, on a time lateral. In other words, we've shunted off the main track of space-time and time-space. And we've stretched space-time so that we would have more time in which to learn to be ethical enough to make the choice consciously between service to self and service to others. For a long time, it was hoped by those who were helping service to self entities the way the Confederation helps service to others. There's also a call for service to self information, and so the so-called Orion Empire and all of those nice little, what are they called, insectoids and this oids and that oids, and David Icke is the probably the dean of that school of thought, which has some value to it as far as explaining that there is extraterrestrial aid for those who want to work in a service to self polarity. It is not any scarier to know about these things than it is heartening to know that there is extraterrestrial help abounding for those who want to seek in a service to others fashion. The time lateral story is probably, let me give you a quote from Kuo that was recorded on February 11th of 2007. You have never experienced life in your totally natural physical environment because you have been on a time lateral and quarantined for thousands of years. It was hoped by quarantining the planet from further outside influences of any kind that the free will of the body of the tribe of humankind would gather itself and would begin to address realizations of how ethical choices might be made in a way that progressed from the basic feeling that when threatened, the proper response was likely to be violent, for that got the job done, and right quickly. Consequently, riding upon this time lateral as you have experienced repeated waves of empire as they have flourished and fallen, only to see another empire rise and fall, and another, and another. If you look at your outer environment, you may see these forces at work even now, moving in a repetitive manner, satisfying that portion of the tribe of humankind's deeper mind, which is used to these energies and feels comfortable with them, not because they're good, but because they are what planet Earth is all about. There are entities from fifth density on the service to self path that are attempting a coup, shall we say, of this train of humankind running along this parallel time track. They would like it not to rejoin the main track. The guardians of this planet and those light givers within your planetary forces, both seen and unseen, have all moved heaven and earth, literally, to create a slowing of the forces of time, so that every possible instant may be given to the development of planet Earth's human population, to the point where the vote of the straw poll is for service to others and not for service to self, for radiance, peace, and harmony rather than contraction, war, and hostility as a background to the everyday life. We are very hopeful. If that last moment were this very day, the straw poll indicates that your planet will rejoin the typical normal progression of space-time. So we're good. We're doing well. It doesn't maybe feel like it because what bleeds leads in the news, in the buzz. But actually, people are waking up in astounding numbers all over the planet. And it's amazing. Our email inbox has just exploded. The rate of people waking up is just exponential. So I think we can take heart. We're doing well. We just have to keep doing well while the fifth sun sets and the sixth sun rises. Interestingly enough, there was a pyramid inch thing that went with the Great Pyramid and archaeologists in the 19th century, mostly in France, some in England. They created this amazingly Baroque and complex thing that showed how the pyramid inch was the bee's knees. It said this, it said that, and among other things, it gave a timeline. Well, the timeline there changes. It drops in 2012 at the winter solstice. Whoops, here we go again. Kabong, it's another boat heard. Now, the pyramid inch has been thoroughly discredited, which does not stop it from being an interesting thought, and possibly a useful thought to some. It certainly has been to me, because I went further with this pyramid inch business and discovered that the pyramid inch is based on calculations, mathematical calculations having to do with the Great Pyramid. And they say that, well, everything stops at 2012, but you see it really doesn't. There's a gap of about 30 years. Then it begins again and takes hold, and that's just exactly what the Mayans said. So, at any rate, at 2012, what's going to happen? Are we going to vanish? Will we be, as Jesus suggested, taken from the fields, and suddenly everything will go away, and either we'll be raptured or we'll cease to exist? I don't think so. I think physically it's a non-event. There are a lot of people, very good people I personally feel have a lot to say, like David Wilcock, who say, no, it really is going to stop. And at one point, when the Ra group were talking in the early 80s, they also felt that there would have to be a planetary shift. I mean, a physical, magnetic, a pole shift. Edgar Cayce had predicted it was going to happen before the turn of the century. And we have been told by psychic groups, we at L&L Research have been told many times that we were part of the reason that it didn't happen then, that the positive lightening of the planetary energies that were happening because we held the light, because we began to know that it was important to see ourselves as those who make a space in which the light can flow from the Creator out into the world of manifestation, that we had given the planet more time. But still, 2012 comes, and it is something that comes on the dot for the planet. We can't stop that. Third density light is waning. Sun is setting. Fourth density light is tremendously fuller of information. That's why it's called denser. That's the density thing. Every time you get a change in density, you get light that is denser with information, has more facets to it, I guess, or something like that. And we are being thoroughly bombarded and interpenetrated by mature, healthy, fourth density light. And we are receiving so much truth that it's very painful. It becomes more difficult to make your choice of polarity when you're getting so much information about not only the positive part of you, but that shadow side of you that makes up the other part of the 360 degrees of you. Because, you see, we are all one. And if we are one thing, then we are everything. We are every emotion. We are every thought. We are every way of being. And we don't usually integrate our shadow side. We usually spend our time going, well, I'm not that. I'm not a murderer. I'm not an adulterer. We'll not talk about Tiger Woods. I'm not the one who steals from the widow and the orphan or this and that. But you see, we contain that. And so this fourth density light makes it necessary for us to see clearly everything we haven't seen about ourselves so far. And that's what's so hard. We don't really have the comfort of third density light anymore. It's gone. It's no longer protecting us from the whole truth. And so we have to make our choice now, if we haven't. And I believe all of you already have, or you wouldn't be here. But at any rate, you know what I'm talking about. You've discovered that there are shadow parts of yourself that you need to integrate into your personality, that you need to ask to work for you and not against you. It's sort of like Dion Fortune's wonderful story of when she was going through a dark night of the soul, and suddenly there was a wolf at the edge of her bed, just biting and snarling and just waiting to take her. And she suddenly realized that what she had to do was to open her arms and embrace this wolf and take this wolf to her heart and say, I love you, I value you, I honor you, I respect you. Would you please come to work for me? Would you be my grit? Would you be my stubbornness? Would you be that which gives me bottom as I seek to be a servant of the light? Because that, you see, is the true value of our shadow side. That's where the integration happens. We redeem our shadow side as we move towards the open heart. And we can really only get into that open heart with all of ourselves collected. So it's been a matter lately of just having wave after wave of this truth hitting us and going, oh, another shadow that I need to go and collect and accept and honor and respect and ask to work for me. So that's really a lot of what we're doing right now as these third density days wane, is to doing that work. And as the fourth density light gets stronger, I really believe it is more challenging to do the work because we know too much, we're aware of too much. But we can still do it. And I think that a lot of us here, the younger ones of us, are probably wired for third density and fourth density. So the veil is thinner, and you all are going to be able, a lot better than us older people, to be able to make use of this fourth density light in a very positive way. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord, we are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord, and we know that our unity will one day be restored, and they'll know we are seekers by our love, and they'll know we are seekers by our love. The law of unity is the basis of the law of one. I need to run through these principles fairly quickly. I'm running out of time. But the law of unity is the beginning of it. All is one. We are everything. There is a complete unity that binds all things. You are everything, every being, every emotion, every event, every situation. You are unity. You are infinity. You are love, light, light, love. You are. This is the law of one. That's from Ra. I had a little nut tree, nothing would it bear, except a silver nutmeg and a golden pear. The King of Spain's daughter came to visit me, and all for the sake of my little nut tree. I dance over water, I skip over sea, and all the birds in the air can't catch me. The second principle is the principle of free will. It is absolutely dominant on this planet and needs to be taken greatly into consideration. Our rights stop at the end of our nose. We do not need to do anyone else's work for them. We do not need to teach others for their own good. We need to realize that that which is outside of us is a mirror of us, and it's all about us. When we see that person out there and we think, well, they're misbehaving, we don't try to fix the person out there. We say, why did I notice that image in my mirror? Where in myself is that which made me notice that? And then we do the work on ourselves. There's a Hawaiian discipline of healing called Ho'oponopono. And that theory is that you never meet your patient. You read the case history, and then you go back to your inner room, and you put your feet up, and you find that sickness within yourself, and you heal it within yourself. And studies have shown that those who do this work have been able to help prisoners go free, have been able to help the insane become sane again, and so forth. But you're doing the work within yourself. The law of love is the third law of the law of one. And that is the law of the Logos, that not only are we all one, but the nature of that one thing is the one great original thought of unconditional love. The opening of the book of John in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. And the Greek, he wrote in Greek, and that word is logos in the original. In the beginning was the Logos. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And darkness tried to drown it, but the darkness could not overcome it. And that is our truth. Whatever darkness we see, we know for sure that the light within us is sublime and is victorious. We don't have to be proactive about fighting for the light. We simply have to hold a space for the light to flow through. The light cannot be overcome. The responsibility of the open heart, says Kuo, is to love unconditionally that which it sees and to see each and everything and person as the self. And Jesus said, I have 2 commandments. Let's take it down from 10. The first commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength. And the second is like unto it, to love your neighbor as yourself. If you love your neighbor as yourself, you're not going to let that neighbor go hungry or unclothed or uneducated or cold. It's so simple. It's too simple. That's the problem with the law of one. It's been the problem all along. It's too simple to grasp intellectually. We are all one. So when we don't treat people like ourselves, we're simply in error. And to come into an accurate and correct reading of the way things actually are, we need to start seeing people with eyes of love. And then we're going to want to make sure that there's health care for everybody. We're going to want to redecorate countries that have been blasted, create infrastructure in schools and so forth. We're not going to want to blast them further into smithereens. And I have a feeling, in time this will come, but it's really not our job to be worried about that. What our job is to look at how we're thinking, thought by thought. The very, very first reading from Ra asked, what are your thoughts this day? Were they thoughts of love? Were they thoughts of service freely given to others? Ask yourself that. It's a good question. How to prepare for 2012? Well, very quickly, let me run through a perfectly marvelous resource that the Law of One has given us and the Confederation in general. And that is the concept of the energy body. Now, they sort of reinvented the wheel because the Buddhists knew about this a long time ago, and so did the indigenous populations of this planet. But we are not simply a physical body. We are a physical body, a physical vehicle that is an opportunity for a third density soul to live a life. And when the third density soul decides that it's going to take advantage of this opportunity, it moves into the body either of the fetus within the womb, or sometimes it might wait until the child is actually born. But it's a very variable thing. And that, by the way, is the secret to, should I get an abortion? Everybody that ever thinks about an abortion simply needs to ask within, okay, is this just an opportunity for you, or did you really want me? Do I have a karmic responsibility for you? Did we make an agreement? Is there a contract? Or did you just want in and I was there? So a lot of times you can work it out on that level, and then you don't have the guilt, you see, as to what your decision is. Anyway, I digress. But a lot of people write in asking this particular question these days, in this day of promiscuity, or should we say freedom. So, this energy body, the horse we rode in on, it connects up our spine. It is inextricably connected by the silver cord, according to the Law of One, and according to lots of other ways of looking at things that you can read. In the Law of One system, there are 7 chakras. There's the red ray chakra, which is the entrance chakra at the joining of the legs. At the belly level, there's the orange ray chakra, which has to do with personal relationships. Yellow ray chakra at the solar plexus, which has to do with the relationships that are more formalized, family, birth family, marriage family, work. Even if you root for your team, you're vibrating yellow ray. Then there's the heart chakra, the throat chakra, which is all about communication and compassionate listening. Indigo ray chakra, which has to do mostly with being. Those who are here simply to radiate their being are doing indigo ray work. And then the violet ray chakra at the crown of the head. There is an 8th chakra that the Confederation talks about sometimes, which is basically the flame above the indigo ray chakra. And when you're doing work in consciousness or magical work, sometimes it's helpful to use that visualization of the 8th chakra. But these chakras, the chakra system interpenetrates. And it is actually the boss of us as far as, it's the factory design. It knows all of the defaults that are the healthiest for us. So if we can move from physical concerns to non-physical concerns, we're in good shape. Understanding how this energy body works is very helpful, because what we need to do to graduate, you see, is to keep our hearts open. And what keeps our hearts close so often is that stuff from our childhood or from our earlier life that, is embedded in us, like little nuggets of pain that we've pushed under and crystallized because we weren't willing to deal with them at the time. We couldn't, a lot of times as kids. We didn't have the capacity to deal with them. We had to get along with our parents. That was survival. That was number one. And so, we pushed down the pain of not being understood, of not feeling worthy, of all kinds of pieces of pain. So we go through our daily lives, and chances are by 10 o'clock in the morning, we've been triggered. And something's closed in our sexual feelings about ourselves or our feelings about survival, red ray. Something in our personal relationships, orange ray. Something in our more formalized relationships, something with the wife, something with the kids, something with the job, yellow ray. And that'll close us down, shut us down. And the energy moves through the energy body from the infinite creator in infinite supply, from the central sun to the core of the earth and up into us and out and out and out in an unending supply. You know how generous the sun is. It's not going to stop burning and radiating and shining. And we're receiving that radiant energy through us all the time as it hits the womb of the earth and then comes up from Mother Earth into us through the earth itself. By the way, if you ever want to work with that earth energy, either put your feet on the ground, put your body on the ground, or imagine yourself on the ground, and you can make that connection and you do that work. So, if we can keep our hearts open, you see, then we see with eyes of love. And we do the work of polarization. And in order to graduate third density in the positive sense, we only have to have a grade of 51. 51% of the time we need to have a thought in our head for other people. That's not bad. It's like, if you have a sandwich and somebody comes along and he's hungry, break it and give it him a half. You got it. And so many people who never have been interested in metaphysics or have the intellectual interest to pursue the fascinating and wonderful resources of all of the world religions and spiritual systems, there's still those that spend their days thinking of other people, and they're going to graduate. Don asked one time, how do we, I know we want to get this out globally, but what about the people that don't have technology? And the answer from them was, well, they already know. They're not burdened with civilization. They're not confused. So, so just clear the energy body, open your heart, and you're good to go. It's that simple. That's how you work with this challenging 2012 stuff, is not to be afraid, not to take it upon yourself to educate the world. Although, we really, Don did say many times to me, he said, I want this information that we're collecting to be globally available. This was before computers. With computers came our chance to do that, and we've had millions and millions of hits on our stuff and on the web. By the way, our address for all of our work is www.llresearch.org. We also have a spiritual community site where you could blog, you can talk in the forums, you can do live chat, and that's www.bringforth.org. That's BRING4TH.org. Please feel free to use those resources. They're up there for you. Okay, one more thing about. Yeah, I do have time. This is going well, folks. I am so often I get to the end of my presentation, I'm going, I could have said that, and I could have said it shorter. The nature of the graduation process is so comforting, I want to share it with you. What happens when we die? Because I think that's when we are going to be harvested, not at 2012. 2012 is a non-event in terms of physicality because it has to do with the planet changing, and that planetary change is not, it doesn't have to do with third density. Fourth density exists nested over and interpenetrating third density. Third density doesn't end, so fourth density can take over. That's not it. Fourth density Earth is a whole different sphere. And you know from your studies in high school, there's so much space between the atoms. There's plenty of space for things to interpenetrate. There's plenty of space for nested creations. So physically, it's a non-event. This is my belief, and I could be wrong. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. If I'm wrong and we all go at once, it's going to be a party. It's going to be so great. We're going to go, wow, look at all of this, you know, and we get to go through this healing process all at once. Great, no problem. I don't see the problem. I don't see any occasion for fear, even if I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. I think it's like Y2K. I think, you know, we're overthinking this thing. Metaphysically speaking, I think we're going to be harvested as we leave this earth naturally. And the Confederation gives us a model of that. Let me read you this quote from Quo. The law of one states simply that all things are one, that all beings are one. There are certain behaviors and thought forms consonant with the understanding and practice of this law. Those who, finishing a cycle of experience, that is, finishing a lifetime, demonstrate grades of distortion of that understanding of thought and action will be separated by their own choice into the vibratory distortion most comfortable to their mind-body-spirit complexes. Oh, this must be Ra. He's the one that calls people mind-body-spirit complexes. This process is guarded or watched by those nurturing beings who, being very close to the law of one in their distortions, nevertheless move towards active service. Thus, the illusion is created of light, or more properly but less understandably, light love. This is in varying degrees of intensity. The spirit complex of each harvested entity moves along the line of light until the light grows too glaring, at which time the entity stops. So you have this process of each step on the stairs of light, on the steps of light. It's a little more towards fourth density, and then it crosses into fourth density, and it's the beginning vibration of fourth density, and then a little bit higher on the level, the next sub-density, and higher, and it's like you're walking into the sunshine. And you walk up these steps of light, which are very carefully guarded by angelic presences, which are actually part of the Confederation of Angels and Planets in the service of the Infinite Creator, according to the Confederation sources. And carefully guarded at every step so that the values remain true and that you cannot fall off the steps of light as you're doing your work. You just walk into the light. And the light gets fuller and fuller and fuller, but there's a point at which it's too bright for you. It's uncomfortable, and you stop. If you've stopped in third density, for the next master cycle, you're going to go to another third density planet, not Earth. And you're going to have another go at third grade in this refinery of souls, the school of souls. No biggie. You just have, 75,000 more years of McDonald's. Etc. And you work it out, right? But if you've moved over the line into fourth density, you've graduated. It's simple as that. And all of a sudden, your world has become much more interesting because of the nature of fourth density light and of the fact that suddenly you can begin to catch concepts instead of words. You can get the bigger picture. The veil does lift. And it's not that you know each other's thoughts and, oh my God, I know everybody's thoughts. And it's that you know your thoughts. You accept your thoughts. You also know everybody else's thoughts. You accept them for who they are. And you know then how to work with them. You know how to harmonize with them. So it's not like we all become the same. It's not like we become, like bees or something that, are run by the queen. It's that we are now able to harmonize with each other and to act in ways that are of service to each other, almost effortlessly. So it's an expanded menu of things that choices we were able to make. Interestingly enough, just about everybody that has graduated in service to others on this planet has looked at all the menu of what shall I do next, and they've come back because they're concerned at this time of harvest that there be workers in the harvest because the fields are white. And so they've come back. And a lot of them have come back because they feel badly about how they've left Earth. It's not so much that they're concerned with other people. They want to leave Earth cleaner, sweeter. They want to become better stewards of Earth. So there's a lot of energy of love for the planet itself, in addition to love of each other from these indigo children, crystal children that have come back. And the veil for them is very thin, so they don't take kindly to nonsense. So they're system busters, and some people find them very difficult, but only if they don't grasp the fact that they're holding more truth than we are. So it's time for us to make the choice, my beloved other selves. It's time. It's past time. Angelica said last night so many beautiful things about this transformation, this time of transformation, why it has to come, why it is here, and why we're part of it. And we had a wonderful aloha to tell us to love each other and hug each other and be passionate. Kindle in us the fire of your love, should be our prayer. Send forth your spirit, and we shall be created, and you shall renew the face of the earth, sang the psalmist 2,000 years ago and more, and it remains true. We are servants. Shall we be servants of the light and the love of the one infinite creator? We shall. And we shall do it this week together. And the energy that we shall generate, because we are all moving in the same direction, is stupendous. This is going to be a fun week for us all. Love one another, love one another as I love you. Care for each other, care for each other as I care for you. And bear each other's burdens and share each other's joys. Love one another, love one another, and bring each other home. And bring each other home. We have just a little time. It's 10:22. I have 8 minutes, according to this atomically accurate clock, for questions. If you have a question, you'll have to shout it out. I'm not that sharp of hearing. And then I'll repeat it so everybody can hear it. I see a hand in the front row. The sound current? Well, you see, we're all, he asked about the sound current and the audible live stream. We are all vibrations. there isn't anything but vibration, according to Dewey Larson, which the Ra group said was the closest physics to what actually happens. We're made up of vibrations of time-space and space-time. And those mismatches between space-time and time-space create the manifested universe and the unseen realms. So that vibration, which you might call unconditional love, has that's the basic vibration. Everything else is a distortion to some extent. So every subdensity has its own vibration. Those who are Buddhists are especially adept at clocking and writing about some of these other vibrations. We know of, we talk about the music of the spheres, but we are a melody. The density in which we exist, that subdensity, that precise vibration where we're vibrating, is a whole world. And each of those has its own melody. So the melodies are out there. The melodies are singing. And it's up to us to catch the melody that is appropriate for us and that has vibrations for us. And when we are able to do that, when we are able to contain those vibrations, then we sing with that melody and we can become part of holding that space, holding that melody, holding that music, holding that vibration. But it's not because, we're solid beings and somehow, we hear that vibration. It's because we ourselves are vibration. We ourselves are a frequency. And so we, as those who come in from time-space with the energy body and attach that to the physical body, we become portals. We become places where we can bring into manifestation that which is unmanifest. It's a wonderful opportunity for us all. And we do it whether or not we intend to. Every word you say vibrates at a certain frequency and sings a certain song. Does that begin to answer your query? Okay. Right. Right. But it's an endless stream of melodies, and it's not that one is right and another one is wrong. It's we get to choose how we want to vibrate. Got 5 minutes left. Who's got a question? Go ahead.
Okay. I got to admit that I do get negative thoughts.
You get what?
Negative thoughts.
Gosh.
Golly.
Could it be that you're not alone?
And I want to be able to live in a space of being in the proactive positive, and at the same time, I know that I get these kind of thoughts or feelings that, I react to people or what I see on TV or whatever. Mm-hmm. How can I blend the two so that, the light really does show me that that's a shadow?
Well, you see, that's what I was talking about with the shadow side, is that you don't overcome the shadow side. You don't say, that's not me. You say, oh, negative thought. Okay, well, let's look at that. Where did that come from? What triggered that thought? And you start to gather intelligence about how you work, because we all have buried treasure. And as we dig up the crystalline pain that caused that tendency towards negative thought in just that way, then we can begin to understand ourselves and to accept ourselves just as we are. And we take that negative thought and that person that thought the negative thought, and we just cradle that child and say, honey, I know that happened badly, but, this is a new day, and I love you, and I honor you. And you just do the work day by day. Every time you have that thought, you don't just say, oh, I don't want to have that thought. You say, oh, now let's see. Let me look into that. Let me balance that. Let me spend time with that. And so you just be your mom and nurture that child within that was hurt so badly that the tendency toward that particular kind of thought would come up. You just watch. You'll find triggers hidden that will lead you to the treasure within. You dig it up, you dust it off, you let it go through the refining fire of your spiritual process, and you're going to have a gem.
So are we saying then that the psychological work is really important?
Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we cannot say, oh, I'm just going to be loving light.
Right. No, that doesn't work. You can't process into the light by saying, I'm going to be love and light. You move forward into the light by opening yourself to the light. And if that brings you into the darkness, then you embrace the darkness because you know this is where you need to go right now. And this is the dark night of the soul you need to go through right now in order to get to the dawning of a new day.
So one of the big things that have haunted me is this concept called a demon.
Yes. Yes. So true. My time is up, folks. So I'm going to have to be wheeled away. I should explain to you that in addition to having almost no spine left, I'm going to have spinal fusion surgery next month. I broke my foot last week, so I'm a little less than apt. And so I come to you through my husband's kindness at pushing my chair. Thank you so much.